Hello and welcome back to the Right Brain Podcast. Today we have Tyler Ward, amazing YouTuber, creator of Songhouse, and great songwriter and singer.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And by the way, Tyler, if you want to sit Indian style too, like Ellis.
Well, I wanted to show off my dad shoes.
Oh, yes.
That's
and
right.
Tyler is a new dad.
You're a new dad. That's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Big deal.
Changes things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything changes.
Oh, my word.
Especially when you have a little girl.
Changes everything.
Yeah.
I'm a little sweeter than I used to be, I think.
Are you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just say that.
Let me tell you, bro, it's just beginning.
Okay.
Right? Just wait until she's a little bit older and she comes over to you and, you know, she calls you daddy and she wants, oh my God. Like then it's
different.
Oh, it's very different. It's different with boys. Obviously, boys, you're throwing them around and wrestling with them and everything, but your little girl just like kills you.
Okay.
She still does.
He loves me so much.
Yes.
I love that.
Okay, so we're gonna start off by asking you about your childhood a little bit.
Let's go.
Let's go. All right, tell us about it.
Yeah, you're just talking a lot about your family and stuff. So it sounded really interesting and fascinating. You had this unique combination. So why don't you get into that?
My mother is so gifted and creative. She's like a piano savant. And my father cannot clap on rhythm, yet he is one of the hardest working football coaches. And I don't know what got into him, but all he wanted to do was win state championships. And he would go to every school to try to implement his programs and ideas and would always wonder, they don't get it. They don't get it. They don't get it. And I was like, maybe they're not the problem, Father. But I just remember being like, my son, I earned love by scoring touchdowns. Let's just go there. There's a lot to unpack in that space.
So you were running back?
Yes, sir. I was a running back.
Okay, I was a quarterback.
You would hand me the ball, and I'd block for you occasionally.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I throw it to you occasionally.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I completely get that. But, you know, athletes are right brain dominant also, usually.
So this is new news to me. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So that's why when I usually look at like 6 maybe primary subtypes of right brain and left brain. So when we talk about right brain, left brain, it's a lot more complicated than that. But so, you know, you might get somebody who's a singer-songwriter, who's a classic right brain area in the temporal lobe that they're really gifted with. You get someone that's an athlete who's also very right brain, and that may be more in an area called the parietal lobe, and that's where you have, you know, like 3D spatial vision.
Yeah.
You can kind of see the field all at once. You're intuitive and you anticipate, and you don't have to talk about it or think about it. You get into that zone. You're very into your right brain when you're in the zone in the middle of a sport.
I've never, this crazy to me. You're giving language to things I've wanted to say for a long time. But it's like you know when the holes will open up, and you like can, and like when you're driving, you know, like to what to anticipate, and it's simple things like you don't really have to look on your peripherals because you know.
No, it's just you just know. The right brain just knows.
Yeah,
and it's actually much faster in processing information than the left brain.
Okay, let me ask you a question. So when I was hearing you earlier, you were like, I hired someone who's very left brain to help me with, and you know.
Shout out to Janet, by the way.
Shout out to Janet. Let's go, Janet. I need a Janet. But I'm thinking to myself, sometimes, because it processes so quickly, the explanation and of the execution to someone is so frustrating that they'll do it like 80%. I'm happy about that, but I'm also going, yo, I could execute that probably in 1/10 of the time.
That's true.
And at a higher capacity.
Right.
And so it's challenging sometimes to find some people who can run in that lane with you. And that's where I struggle the most, but also that's where I've shined the most as well.
And
when it comes to building. Yeah.
Yeah, because that right brain is so fast in how it thinks. And it
tell me more. That's tell me more.
Well, that's the thing. People think that, you know, the left brain is intellect and intelligence, and all of our school is geared towards the left brain, and the academics and the Ivy Leagues, and, you know, you have all of that. And that is, you know, intellectual, but that's really like that math, science, engineering type of brain.
Yeah.
But it's much slower than the right brain. And the left brain has words. So because it has words, it feels like it's more important because our left brain's talking to us all the time. Right brain doesn't have words. Right brain has feelings. Right brain is intuitive, but the right brain is actually taking in multiple streams of information at exactly the same time and instantly knows the answer And that's why I tell her when someone's dyslexic or had a learning disability, it's to try to slow that process down into school. And now you have to learn it step by step by step. You have to show us how you got the answer to the math question, right? Where a right brain person may know this is the answer, and someone says, how'd you get it? And they say, I don't know. Well, then it doesn't count unless you can show us.
Yeah.
And so that slowing down to do it step by step. And yet, that's they always have kind of painted the right brain like the dumb jock,
we
like
talked about that, but
you're not really as intelligent, because many people that are right brain dominant struggle with dyslexia or learning disabilities or processing disorders, yet they can write a song, like that.
Wow.
So how were you in school? I mean, were you pretty good in school? Did you have any issues? You said both your parents were teachers?
Both my parents were teachers. And Dad, again, very do the right thing, do the right thing, do the right thing. And it finish what you start. Mom, all over the board, creative. Oh, my son's a singer, blah, blah. Created stories in her head and shared it with the people who are what I would consider normal. And they'd be like, oh my gosh, Tyler, I cannot believe you're doing all these things. And I was like, I can't believe I'm doing all these things as well. So these two sides. And going back to school, I was very good in school. Initially, I didn't care about grades. But then I went to the Air Force Academy because I felt like I went to the Air Force Academy to play football.
Wow.
And I did a music a little bit, but it was like I wasn't allowed to quite explore it because my dad loves me, right? We're going there. And then I did the discipline thing. So 3 hours a night studying at the academy, mandatory with your door open through a full basic training. And that shocked my system to go, if I can get through this, everything else in life is so cake.
Right.
Wow.
So you think about that. Then I dropped out like after the semester because you have 2 years to decide. At the semester, I felt like I wasn't quitting. I felt like it just wasn't a place for me because all I wanted to do was play guitar and sing and laugh and make jokes. And one of the stories, I remember making jokes at the academy, and the drill instructor came up to me. He's like, Ward, are you laughing? And when you like can't stop laughing when they tell you, in school you like keep laughing when they tell you you're not supposed to. Everybody else had their stuff together, and they made me face the wall as a discipline and a consequence with my nose to the wall. And I started like seeing visions of the wall because I was there so long. And made my entire squad do push-ups for about 45 minutes.
Oh boy.
And after that, I was like, I don't know if this place is for me.
Yeah.
So I ended up leaving, got a scholarship to play football at the University of Northern Colorado, and then never, ever, ever got a B and graduated at the top of my class with 2 degrees in 3.5 years because I learned how to study.
Yes.
And then right after that, this intuition thing took over, and I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to do music and create, and the YouTube was starting to come out. So, and everything was easy because all these musicians were, I'm going to put a song out. And I was like, I don't believe you. You talk about it and you're amazing, but I'm going to put a song out tomorrow because I'm just going to finish it and you're not. So I would just put songs out over and over and over and finish. Started a YouTube channel, and it started growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. And I remember getting like 2,000 subscribers a day, and it just kept growing. And I was like, this is so easy because I went through basic training, and everybody's like, how are you putting out so much content? I was like, what? This isn't hard. This is fun.
Right.
It was confusing to me. It still is that sometimes because I work with like hundreds of different artists a year, and the biggest struggle I see is follow through.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like they're so brilliant and creative and could come up with all these ideas, and I don't believe you at all.
Right.
Because I just know what you need is execution and finalize. So my role right now, it's like very valuable because it's like, if you're going to work together, at least stuff's going to get finished. Mm-hmm. And that's the first step to even seeing if you have a career. So
it's really important. What you're saying is hugely important to be able to, you're exactly right. Like one of the biggest things, especially with creative people, is they have all these ideas, but to try to organize it now and put it into some sort of actual action plan and to just do it.
It's so hard for me.
It's so hard for people to do that. And like you said, that's probably the biggest problem I think a lot of people have.
But that also kind of goes hand in hand with like, we talk about a lot, just like imposter syndrome happens a lot for like very creative people. So like when you started your YouTube, Did you ever, like, when you would put things out, do you get like that anxiety after you post something, like, oh my God, what if somebody doesn't like it, or you just didn't care?
Oh, yes.
Yeah? Oh,
I care
okay.
so much still. But I also know too, everything changes in time. If I like get through the emotion of it, I go to the next thing, like, I'm glad I stuck with that post. And I've learned over time, it's like, no one cares. Put it up. No one cares. They're not sitting there going, I can't believe they posted that twice. Like, I don't do that. Why would other people take time and do that?
That's true.
So I'm just looking to plant seeds as much as possible and going wherever they land. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of mentality. It's like the more the merrier, because it's just worked for me in the past. So it's like, that's a great idea. Finish it. Move on. So that's kind of how I operate.
Wow.
That's a really key thing. I hope people are listening to that, because I can tell you, like, that's rare, and that is so important, that to be able to adopt that skill. And that's not really kind of a right brain, left brain. It is a little bit of a left brain skill, but it's really more just, like you said, I think it comes from your father being able to make yourself do something that you may not think you're able to do. And then at a certain point, like I said, you get to a certain point where you just trust you're going to get it done. And I'm going to get it out. You don't stress over it. You don't, ruminate over it. You're like, okay, I know I'll get it done when the time comes. And so I can tell you've developed a certain confidence in yourself that you just know that you can get it out, you can put it out, and you'll do it.
Yeah, and the freeing thing to me, what I've learned is on the other side of it, it finally frees me up to think about the next idea. So the minute it's just stuck and in me, here's where I learned this really, really, really hard lesson. I was in college before YouTube even really existed, and I had an internship at MTV. And I thought I was the coolest person.
Yeah,
and they put me
sick.
it was the sickest thing, but they put me to work doing like, go find interviews and transcribe them for your boss. And I remember sitting there, and on my heart of heart was just going, I have these 10 songs back at home, and they're not perfect. And I need to finish these songs. And I didn't know what recording studios were. I didn't know anything about the music space. I just knew I had to learn how to put these songs together and produce my own stuff. And they were close, but they didn't sound like radio. So it took me 3 whole years. And I remember even being in New York thinking to myself, all I want to do is finish these songs, but I have this whole thing I'm doing. And the whole point was, it took me 3 years to finish my very first project. And I put it out 3 years later, because I was so concerned with the perfectionism of it. And the cool thing about YouTube, what it taught me was, I can just get in front of a camera and play my guitar and put out the video, and I don't have to impress or improve anybody because I've got nothing going on. But then as things started growing and growing, I almost started second guessing the intuition. And it became way more like, wait, maybe I shouldn't listen to that, because what if they don't like that? That's a part of me. And I'm going to have more people see the real me, and it's gonna be hurt if they don't like. I'm gonna be hurt if they don't like it.
Right.
So I don't know if I'm making sense. I'm going all over the place.
No, you're making so much sense.
But just to tell you that I have been there, struggled, and I care. But I also know the reward of letting go is more freedom to create more things.
That's also a really great statement. I've never heard it put that way before, actually, that getting it done allows you to go on to the next thing.
Yes.
And allows you to be creative again. And that's a really great motivation for somebody that's driven by creativity, but also struggles with procrastination, and may struggle with organization, and may struggle with the final part. That's the one thing with artists. My wife's an artist, and Da Vinci, same thing. A very famous quote from Da Vinci was that, no art is ever actually finished. And it's just
only abandoned.
It's just abandoned, right? And that's so that, and my wife would always say that. She'd always be like, yeah, my painting's not finished yet. I'm like, it looks pretty finished to me. And she would say that about a song a lot. She'd be like, yeah, I got this song I'm writing, but it's not.
I know, I'm trying to take advice from
really
what you're saying
finished.
right now.
But the idea is that to be able to say, what's your motivation to finish, is because when you finish, the next one comes on. And that's a really great way of looking at it.
I'm actually curious for you, because this is, I mean, I work with 20-somethings all the time who are brilliant creators, and some think they're stars, but they're really gifted in writing, or they think that they're great writers or performers, but really they're just great encouragers. And so they go through this process in Songhouse where it's like they're discovering who they are, and then the minute 1 or 2 people find it, it's almost like this graduation where they move on to the next thing. But in the process, and I've seen it time and time and time again, is this talk, never execute. Talk, never execute. So I don't ever believe anybody when they tell me anything anymore in the artist space. Why? Explain to me what I can tell them.
Oh my God,
to go,
we just talked
please
about
tell
this
me.
this morning, actually. That's so
What
funny.
is that?
Yeah, we talked about it. I think, what did you say? I mean, I would describe it as like, I think a lot of times I love to live in like the potential of something because the fear of failure is so terrifying that at least I'm like working towards something that could be great. But what if it's not?
And then if you get to the finish line and if it doesn't meet your expectations or it goes, it's like, what did I do that for? So you're like living in hope in a way.
I think so. How did you describe it this morning?
Well, I was telling her because it was interesting because, I when I look back on her, as a child and all the time, I don't think she's ever had what I would consider a career failure, right? Yeah. Like any step along the way, even, we met with some pretty big people in the music business early on. And even as a young girl, every one of them said to her, this is for you. You're really good at this. Where that's not the story you hear, right? Most of the time you hear, you suck, get out of this business, this isn't for you, you're terrible.
Or even just, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Or, you go somewhere and you perform and you actually do terribly, or, you know what I mean? And she's never really had that. She's only had really what I consider to be, but so that the pain that she has or any of the stress that's been created, it's created purely by her on herself. And it's really the anticipation of failure. Even though she's never really massively failed, the fear of failing, the fear of the anticipation of the pain that never actually comes and is never actually realized. And then you realize that you are the source of your own suffering the whole time.
It's almost like the anticipation. When you're like going to get tickled and they come close. It's almost worse than the actual thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
But also right brain people, like they procrastinate heavily. Like
also in science, there's something called circumlocution, which means that people that are really
could you say that word again?
Circumlocution. I have to say it a few times.
I'm trying to develop a lot more grace for those who don't finish.
What it means who are so gifted. Is that you talk around in circles. That's what it really means.
Okay.
Like circumlocution.
Okay.
And people that are right brain dominant, they have a hard time getting to the point. They have a hard time bringing it down and lining it up and getting to the end. And
but why is that?
Because they have so many different, because their right brain has so many thoughts and ideas coming in at the same time. The left brain sees things one at a time in sequence. So they have left brain people have trouble seeing a big picture. It's the forest for the trees. The left brain sees the tree, the right brain sees the forest. And so what happens is when you see the forest and all you see is a forest, you can't see any of the trees. And so what they have is all of these ideas running around their head and this creativity, but the ability to actually line it up and put it into steps or a sequence or a song and get to an end point is almost impossible for them. And that's what you're seeing with those people.
What is the solution for a creative who is an independent DIY artist to start taking steps to live in action?
Well, first, they have to, I would say, the easiest thing is to change your brain, is to balance your brain. So do things that are left brain. If I analyze what you said about your academy, is that when you went to the academy and having a father like that was so regimented, they taught you left brain skills and made you do it.
And it felt like suffering.
Right. It felt like suffering.
But
you did it because you loved them so much and because you didn't want to disappoint him. And probably your father being disappointed was maybe one of the worst things that you could have possibly realized when you were a kid.
And as you get older, you go, I'm happy it happened, and it was so sad that it happened. There's like yes and all in that. And when you go through like 7 years of therapy to try to deal with all this chaos and why you're all the weird stuff is coming out sideways when you want it to be just like, come on, get my life together. You blame your parents. You blame your parents.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when I start looking at other artists and other creatives and how much potential is left inside of them, then I blame my parents and say thanks.
Yep.
So it's this weird dichotomy where it's not a yes or a no.
I work with a lot of families and a lot of parents. And I think, you know, this is a generation and it is what it is. And I'm not being judgmental, but we live in a world of an age of gentle parenting. And there's something to be said about that, but there's something about it that isn't so great. And part of it is, you know, parents will say to me, you know, but I try to I don't want to make them do things that they don't want to do. And they come to me and they say, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, but they're 5. And they don't know what they want.
But they're fine.
Right. And then I say to them, but I'm going to tell you on the other end of it, they're going to come to you when they're 25 and they're going to go, why did you listen to me? And then they're going to blame you for that.
Chills,
because
bro.
they're going to go, you were an adult. I was a child and you listened to me. And I say that to parents. I'm like, you can't listen to a 5-year-old child. They're thinking, I don't want to do this. I want to play this game and I don't want to do this, right? And so, you know, your father would have been like, no, get your ass out there and do it, right?
Oh,
and
Lord.
at the time, you were like, he's so mean.
But I've seen it in what has been one of my most fulfilling creative endeavors, which is building Songhouse, which is an incubator for independent artists.
Can you
So
talk
amazing.
about
Yes.
how you did that? I mean, what was your thought? It's such a great creative idea, and let people know who don't know about it, like what actually happens in Songhouse.
Yeah,
'Cause
Songhouse-
it is fascinating.
So just being a YouTuber and creative and DIY, not knowing anything about the industry and learning, like being very self-taught of like, I don't have any money to pay for a recording at the blasting room in Colorado where all these records are being made because it's going to cost me $2,500 and I make $100 a week and my parents are teachers.
Right.
And $2,500 is like a gold mine. You know, we get one pair of shoes every year for school as like a gift. Like that mentality goes survival. And when you love something so much, you go, I've got to at least teach myself how to do certain things. And when the tools start coming out, you're like, wait a second, I can buy a microphone at Guitar Center for $69, and there's these sound cards that they have you can connect to a PC. And I'm like, so I can do this all on my own now. I just got to learn how to do it. And so you teach yourself and you teach yourself and you teach yourself, and then
That's an important thing because a lot of parents think that we have to give our child everything. And that, you know, if we give them,
suffer.
I'll buy them if someone had bought you a record studio, you know what I mean?
I'd have
or
been like,
something. Yeah, right. But you did it on your own.
Therefore, it's so much value, and I still find this joy. Like, wait, I can record myself.
Yeah.
There's like a we didn't used to have that. I'm saving money by teaching myself. Like there's a survival gift that like you go back to. Yes, you said it well. You said it well. For me, let them suffer. Enjoy your poor. Okay. So then knowing how to create and do this whole thing and realizing that like you can start teaching tools to different artists and different people, and knowing that like I have a ceiling as a creative because I've been around other creatives who I'm like, how did you think of that? But I go, ooh, I can take that idea and put it in a system, and the system becomes even more creative. And I have a system in place where a lot of these people don't. So I had neighborhood kids in Colorado who sang decently, and I was like, let's make you a star. So I have 500,000, 1 million subscribers. Hey, come along my journey with me. I'm going to show you off to the world. And they start learning the tools and they start developing their own skills. And now they have 1 million subscribers and they're doing their own thing. And I have the Tyler Ward crew, and now we're touring all around the world together under this brand. And then you realize, oh, it's all about you. And then you have your own ego death. And then 2020 happens, and then everything doesn't make any sense anymore. You just go, what am I doing life for in general? But then that's one of the best things is it becomes, oh, it's about actually service to other people. And there's this refreshing, like, oh, I'm doing this. I have these skills that I built for me that I can actually, in a way, like continue building something, but it is for other people. And so I show up at this place that I own. We call it The Loft in downtown Nashville. And I have 3 tenants, and they're all creatives. And I don't know why I let creatives rent for me sometimes.
Probably not the most stable renters.
Right. And I was like, but but you have such an empathy and a heart for artists because you see them and you're like, you're so good. And there's this balance of like rescuing versus like setting these hard boundaries. And I'm learning that right now because it's like, I want you to learn. If you really want to do this, you have to teach yourself the skills to do it because no one's coming to save you. No one's going to rescue you. Actually, no one cares. And I want you to know that. And if you know that and you really want to do this, then you'll take the time and you'll educate yourself. So I just want to be able to make a place for people to be able to educate themselves and have the tools because they're all available now that I did and give back. And at the same time, as they find success, I get rewarded as well. Not only just seeing a person understand their own career and not taking much from them, but the projects that we work on together, there's financial reward in that as well.
So can you talk about exactly what happened?
I'll tell you exactly what happens at Songhouse. So when I first got there, I showed up as a co-write, and every single one of them had a writing session. And so you have 3 people in one room, 3 people in another room, and I was like, wait a second, there's like 15 people here, and I know creatives aren't going to finish anything. They get in their head. This is just from. I'm going to say this as an actual. It doesn't happen all the time, but most of the time, creatives don't finish anything. So they're all getting together and having a great time, and it's a ball. And we have a 63-year-old in the room. You have a 17-year-old who's missing school. You have a hip hop artist in the room, and I'm like, why don't we all just get together? You guys get out of your heads. Let me give you some lanes for a second. First of all, you don't know each other that well. It'd be really fun to see what this guy and this guy and this guy could do together. So let's put your names on a piece of paper, put it in a hat. We'll pull them out. We'll give you 30 minutes to write a hook. You go in your room. Here's your topic. Timer starts now. Go.
And they go with people or they go by themselves?
1, 2, 3 people from a hat randomly. Go into a room, write a song together.
Okay.
Here's your topic. We gave them 30 minutes to write a hook, and then they came back. And the very first time it happened, we had 4 songs written in 30 minutes, and they had to play the hooks. And 2 of the hooks, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I couldn't have done that on my own, and I'm from Colorado, and I've done the YouTube thing, and I had no idea. These people are insanely gifted. This is a gold mine, because if we can just put systems around creatives, so that's where Songhouse came about, where it's like, okay, now what we'll do, we'll get together tomorrow. And instead of just sharing our songs with each other, why not bring in a video person? We'll execute these, we'll film these, we'll make sure they sound really good, and we'll start throwing them online. And if one goes viral, why don't we finish that? Because now we have something. So the very first video we posted went viral, did like 500,000 views in like the first post.
Wow.
And so we're like, hey, let's follow the energy to that. And being a YouTuber, and I'm executing, I'm like, let's get this thing done. Brought in a producer, brought in another writer, finished the song, executed within 24 hours, put it out online. So within a 48-hour period, we had one song that was going viral, and with all the traction coming, we had the song behind it. She had nothing going on, and now she has, for her first song ever, she has 28,000 streams on the first day.
Wow.
So then I'm going, wait,
so
this
smart.
is a system that we can keep doing. So I kept doing it. We found 1 or 2 different people that came through, and what ended up happening is all the artists that came through the system, we would end up on like Idol or The Voice, and they just started like blowing up, and it became this thing where it's like, oh, we became an incubator for talent in Nashville using the new model. And
how
so
did you
that's what
recruit
we
those
did.
people initially? Like, was there a process that they had to go through to get there?
One of my
initially?
favorite things to do is just creating community, and you find people with their gifts, and you go, ooh, you're really good. You like going to these shows at night with all these writers around? Hey, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a percentage of whatever they make as long as you bring in the artist. So we have the roommates who lived in the space go out and recruit, and you'd have all these artists come through. So we started with like 15, then it grew to 20, and then we had a season where we kind of shifted, and we're like, oh, we're back to 12. And now it's like a waiting list of like 120 people trying to get in every Saturday.
Wow.
Yeah, but I also I came by one time to watch when Madeline was there.
Yeah,
And I feel like the energy that you keep there is really, really like
it's pure.
It is, and
it's pure.
For creatives and artists, like everyone's so afraid of like rejection or all those things, and so to be part of something that might feel competitive or overwhelming, like that's something that maybe people would be afraid to do. But like the energy that you kept there was just so like. It was welcoming and calming. And
we encourage, so failure is feedback, failure is feedback, failure is feedback. And what you perceive as failure is just going, hey, that didn't work. Guess what? That's okay. You're still amazing.
Yeah.
And you finished it. Woo! Didn't sound that great. woo, let's go. Let's just support you.
Yeah.
Because that's where the most like love, you're like, oh, that's not bad. That's not bad. And they get these, and you learn the two, they get their songs back and they're like, wait, I sounded a lot better than I thought.
Yeah.
Wait, maybe I have something. So there's just this like confidence builder. It's an incubator of just like, I think, and if anybody has slight talent, it's like, get in the system, see what happens. So that's
what you give them right now is such gold from any sort of a business, especially if there's some creative aspect to it. Because what you've done is you've created an environment to foster creativity in a non-judgmental space, in an encouraging space. But what you've also given them is systems, like you said, where they know I'm not going to be able to complete it. But if I go to you, you're going to make me complete it.
And that's why I say, I'm here just to kick you off the diving board. You don't have a choice. So your songs coming out or not, sorry.
But they
know, and they're like, okay.
They know they need that.
They need that.
They know they need that. They know that what they want is they want their songs to actually come to fruition.
That's what they want.
It's not that they don't want to complete it.
Even if it doesn't stream well, it's like, I got it out. And guess what? Now we're on to the next one.
Right.
This girl, Emmy Russell, the girl I ended up putting a ring on, I had to kick her off the diving board. And guess what? Best thing ever happened, because after that moment with Skinny, through Songhouse, American Idol happened. Now she's got this massive following. Now she's like more than just a musician and creator. She's like her own little vlogger. Yeah. Like she has her, it's this enterprise that's being created from just that first step. And I'm telling you, it's just planting seeds. Get the thing done or submitted or at least close enough and move on, because then you have more creativity.
And that's the other thing. And actually, Spencer was here and he kind of gave you a shout out because he said that you were like one of the first people. He was from Colorado too.
Yes.
And he
Spencer
also,
Crandall,
I think maybe your father was his coach or something in
we
football.
We were related in the football space. Yeah.
And he said that he learned from you that aspect of putting stuff out there and it not all having to be great. And it's not all going to hit, and not being afraid of making a mistake, not being afraid of failing.
It's so scary.
It's so scary.
It's so scary. It's so scary, but it's worth it. Yeah. To move forward.
And where would we be if we didn't have Emmy's beautiful voice out here? Thank you for kicking her off the diving board.
I wouldn't be here with y'all.
Hey, listen, and the fact that I think that's another huge thing, if anybody can get there, because as I said, if you realize that your anticipation or fear of failure, even if you never actually fail, is worse than failing.
Please.
If you just actually accept
say it again for the people in the back, please. Even for me, just hear it again.
Fear of failing and the suffering you put yourself through is worse than actually failing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true.
Because failing is actually part of success. You cannot succeed without failure. If you have to first say to yourself that, like, the first thing you write is going to suck. Whenever I wrote a book, it was like, okay, it's not going to be great from the beginning, but I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. Like, people would say to me, how do you write books? And I would just say, you just freaking write a book. It's kind of what you're saying. How would you write a song? Just write the song and finish it.
You finish it and you get through all the B-level songs till you finally go, oh, wait, I got the song that represents me, but it took me 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what?
And one of them might actually work with someone else.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like, they're all assets you're creating.
Yeah, but you wrote 20 songs. I mean,
you wrote 20 songs.
You go back in life and you're like, those songs can live forever. And, your grandchildren can listen to those songs or whatever. Right? It's just, it was an accomplishment. You accomplished something. And that's where you want to live in. It's in the actual completion and in the accomplishment, not how great it is. It may be great, especially as we talked about with some of the best songwriters in this town. Nobody can predict what's going to be a hit.
No.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know that you may write a great song and you may think it's the greatest song you ever wrote and nobody may listen to it.
And I'm even on socials, man, this is the craziest part. I think it's the best thing ever. And I'm like, I got great intuition. I've been doing this for years. Trust me. And we'll write a song like, this is it. And I put all the things behind it that I think will make it work. And I'm like, okay, so let's try this one.
Yeah.
And then we'll try that one. I'm like, I don't know. And then it's just, people resonate. You just don't know. Just because I was thinking about today, someone was talking to me, and we were talking last night at an event, and it was so emotional for me. And I look out in the crowd, maybe half the people are paying attention, but the other half are just in tears. And I'm going, isn't that life? Like, what you put out of who you are will land with certain people. and other people just won't really care or resonate. They're like, oh, they're putting up blah, blah, blah. It just depends on what season in life you are is where you're going to reign basically on this person.
Yeah.
So I just love that because it's like you put it out, and guess what? The thing that I loved so dearly, probably 200 or 300 people are going to be like, that's changed my life. And it was only seen by 10,000 people. But this ridiculous thing was seen by 2 or 3 million. I don't know the impact. Is it deep? Is it wide? I don't know. There's a lot of thoughts.
That's the thing. You think about it. The things that are the most expensive, that are the most elegant and sophisticated, are appreciated by the least amount of people.
Okay, again, say that for the people in the back. That's so good. The things that are most expensive are oftentimes the least appreciated.
By the people that appreciate it very much because they're willing to pay that money.
Yes.
So they value it in a tremendous way. But most people won't value that. Most people. So, and I have to, because of course, anytime if I'm doing a lecture, I want 1,000 people in the room, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I may have 30 doctors from all over the world. Like I just did one in TWA, and it was really high level stuff, like super sophisticated stuff that very few people could understand. But the people that came were the best doctors in the world that flew from every country and from the world, and there were only 30 of them there. But they walked away with like, oh my God, this was incredible. But you want a room with 1,000 people. But the 1,000 people, the thing that appeals to thousands of people is probably less sophisticated than the thing that. So that's kind of the conflict. You may create something unbelievably great that most people can't appreciate.
But it's okay.
And you have to look at it. Or you take pride in the fact that you created something so great, or do you feel disappointed in the fact that most people don't get it? I was just watching the show Chosen. Have you seen any of that show at all? You seen any of that show?
Keep talking. I'm processing. My little left brain is processing.
Your little left brain.
I've seen a few of the episodes, yes.
So, it's just, I think it's well done. And Jesus said the same exact thing. He was like,
for those who will hear,
most people are not getting this. And so even to Jesus, people, the majority of people didn't get what he was saying.
Let me ask you a question. And I think I know the answer to this for me, but I'm curious how it sits on you. When you see something for somebody, you're like, I think if they just did this, life would be a little easier. But they're not ready to hear that. And you're not them, so you can't make a person decide and or change. What do you do when you see your daughter and you know the answer for her? And let's just say objectively it's true. How do you approach that situation?
Yeah, I try to approach it gently.
Yeah.
And in an encouraging way, in a positive way. Right brain people don't usually need a critic because they're their own worst critic. They need a cheerleader.
Sorry, Bubbas. I'm learning.
I had a friend of mine who was a good friend of mine. His daughter was an young girl singing, reminded me a lot of her. And, he said to me, how do you feel like when you go see her play? He said, she was just in this play and she was great. And I said, well, how did you feel when you were there? He said, well, I wasn't there. I said, why weren't you there? And he said, because she won't let me come. I said, she won't let you come. He said, no, she won't let me come to any of her performances. And I said, all right, let me guess. You went to a performance one time and you gave her and you critiqued her afterwards. He said, yeah, I was just being honest with her. And I went, that was the biggest mistake you ever made. I was like, she doesn't want to hear a critique from her daddy. You're the one person she can't take it from. So...
Okay, so then
you're probably going to have a right brain daughter, just so you know, man. This little girl growing up is going to be even better than both of you. And so be careful what you say to her.
Okay, well, then let's talk about people that, let's talk about artists who come into the Songhouse space and know that they're going to get a little bit of coaching. And what I've discovered too is like, it's encouragement, a little bit of critique. Hey, maybe we'll try it this way this time. But the person who keeps trying is not quite there. And I don't think they're ready to accept some of the truth maybe that I've seen. That one's hard.
That is hard.
Like that they just aren't that talented.
It's even hard for me to say that out loud, but yes.
Sorry.
They don't have the thing,
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's funny because when I was in acting school, there was a kid that was in my class and he worked every single day. He was like, I'm not going out, I'm not drinking, I'm not doing this, whatever, because this is my dream to do this. But he just wasn't really very good at it. And he didn't have, I would assume he wasn't a very right brain person, honestly, but you don't have to be just right brain, but he wasn't good at like reading the room and everything. So he was working his ass off every day, but I just don't really think he like had the thing. And that's an odd, I don't know. I'm sure you see that.
I see that daily.
Yeah, because it's hard because they're working so hard.
I know. And then the people who are so gifted tend to not work so hard.
Yes, because they're afraid.
And they're also
Okay, this is good to hear. This is good to hear.
They're also the opposite, meaning they criticize them more than, like, they think they suck when you think they're great. Whereas you get other people. So it's what's called metacognition, right?
Yeah.
It's the ability to judge yourself accurately.
Yeah.
And it's primarily a right and left brain frontal. There's an area called the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. And
Of course.
so people who are left brain
Hey,
dominant,
man, I'm one of the 30 doctors.
people who are left brain dominant, they tend to judge themselves as being much better than they are. You know, you get that person, you know, you've probably been with a guy, you know, he's not the most good looking guy or talented, or he might even be kind of shorter, and he walks into a bar and he's like, every woman here wants me, right? And you're thinking to yourself, where the hell does he get that from? Like, how can he be that confident about this? Like, I don't get it, right? Where you might think like none of the women here like me at all, right? And then on the other hand, the right brain dominant person thinks everybody here hates me. I just walked into this situation. Everybody's judging me right now, and they're looking down on me, and I'm not really worthy. So, and that person might be incredibly talented, and they don't realize their own talent. And then you get another person who really isn't that talented, and they don't realize how untalented they are.
But they're more successful because they don't have the fear holding them back, I guess.
Right. Or they're willing to work, and they'll complete things, but it won't be good.
What a wild life we live in.
it's a weird juxtaposition.
Okay, so then where do you find the most people who are like they're very self-aware and their assessment of themselves is accurate? How often is that the case?
That's the ideal. You want that balance.
Yeah.
You want someone that can really have.
Comes back to what he was asking before, like how to actually help, because he does do things to actually like.
So the idea is that you can physically change the brain. You could actually balance the brain. You can do things that will physically change it, and be able to balance out your emotions and, you know, your negative and positive. And some people, like you, did it yourself by, you know, growing up, doing football, learning to be regimented, going to military school, making yourself study for 3 hours. Because even though you're military, you had to do it.
Yeah.
And so you trained your left brain, even though you're probably more like your mom, but you trained yourself to be like your dad.
God bless my mother. Okay, anyways, there's more there.
Yeah, the way you describe her is that creativity and that kind of like, I mean, that's where you get it from, obviously.
So, okay, let me ask you this. The first thing that comes up in my mind is I would think a disciplined regimen, like a consistent workout for an artist every day at a certain time, is probably really healthy for a right brain person.
Absolutely. Yeah. Giving them organization.
Giving them like, here is your schedule.
Yes.
Yes.
Making them complete something.
You hear, again, that's probably why the 30 minutes to write a hook thing was so important. It's like, I have to get out of my head.
Yeah. Yeah. Making
so
them
giving them
something.
boundaries.
Making them
thrive.
do this.
Yeah.
And then giving them
structure.
Because, you know, what builds self-esteem, which is ultimately what a lot of right-brain people struggle with, we've said this before, is doing something that you didn't think you were going to be able to do. And so you're giving that to people because they're thinking to themselves that I would never do this on my own. I would never bring this to completion on my own. And you're giving them that system and that structure of what they really want. And then when they do that, their self-esteem is boosted.
You know what's funny? Okay, so I thought this idea about a month ago and I started implementing it because remember the poor guy who took 3 years and 3 years to release the songs? Well, this guy is much about marketing and trying not to feel the depths because when he gets really terrified, I don't know if I can release it. Mm-hmm. So there's this whole thing of understanding the truth of an artist. And I don't believe I've released my I don't know what they call it. What do they call it when you feel like you release your opus day or whatever they call it?
Your masterpiece.
Your masterpiece. Yeah, the thing that represents you the most. I feel like I've done 2 songs that represent me because they were like from that heart space and very proud of them. And the other day I was sitting there and I was like, social media has broken down the norm so much where you don't have to be a specific age anymore. You don't have to be any sort of affiliation with anything. You can just, you'll find your people. I like truly believe that. Like you put it out, you'll find your people. People will follow you. If it's good in quality, they'll consume it. They'll stay with you on your journey. And I was thinking, I kind of want to test this out, but I want to be an artist. And I know me as an artist won't complete things because he's too scared.
Oh.
But if he has a system in place and he's telling others how to do the system, maybe this artist will be able to complete it. So I came with this idea of the Artist Boot Camp, which is a 2-month program where we meet and you have these goals and execution. You figure out who you are. You write from this specific place. But the only reason I really want to do the Artist Boot Camp is so this artist can run with these others and be held accountable. And so I put this idea to paper, and I had hundreds of applicants when I just threw it out one time. I was like, you guys want to be a part of this? And I was like, people want accountability, and I want accountability. And I'm going, if we can run together with like 12 people, think how that's going to change the trajectory of these creatives for just a 2-month executing, like you're held to it. And if you don't, you're not only disappointing these other 12 people, you're disappointing yourself.
Not only that,
wow.
if you actually do it and you do it better than them, now your whole credibility and yourself goes to a whole different level, because the best way to lead others is by example.
Yeah.
And when you can actually do what you're telling them to do, that's when you're really being authentic. It's when you're actually doing what you're telling everybody else. And if you're saying that you struggle with completion as an artist, but you're trying to get artists to complete, those 2 things don't 100% resonate. And that's in you. And imagine if they, as good as you are and as successful as you are, and imagine if every part of you is actually resonating and that you are that artist that completes it. And the thing is that you can also talk really authentically about being the artist that struggles with the completion.
Yeah.
And then you did it. And how did you do it?
And it's funny because I've completed so many things. I can talk from that place. But the heart art pieces where you're like, wait a second, you're going to see me.
Yeah.
That, I'm going to say maybe 2 or 3 times, and that's hard.
Yeah, it's so scary.
So there we are.
We're
trying to align right now.
You just kind of when we sat in San Francisco, I told you, and we sat on the bed and we talked about how we wanted to get people that were really successful, that did a lot of great things, that that you would think have nothing to fear, or that they're fearless people that go out there, but to try to get those people to reveal that part of them that still may have a little bit of fear or what they struggle with, and be open and honest about that, and share that with others is so important. And it's, but that's part of your journey, and for you to be able to relate that is really, really. Have you ever said that out loud before?
Yeah, I've talked to Emmy about it. I've said it a few times, but I'm trying to say it out loud because there's something in me that's like, Tyler, that ceiling that you have is kind of it's a little how do you say it? Hypocritical. If you don't dig, and experience what you did when you put out those 2 songs, which were so rewarding. But you've covered it on like you've done all the right things, but now it's time to almost like I'm saying out loud for accountability. Let's just say that.
No,
we have it on camera, so
I know, that's why I'm like, damn.
And I understand. I understand what you're talking about, because I've always taught, and I taught doctors at a very high level, and I talk about it. And there was a period where I stopped practicing because I was developing centers, right? So I stopped doing the thing that I did every day. And I was training other people. And now there was a part where people would come up to me and would show me how you would do it. And I'm like, well, I'm a little rusty right now, or I haven't done it in a while. And then there was a point where I was
called
like,
out. This is good.
And so then there was a point where I was like, all right, do I dive back in and do it? But what if I don't do it as good as I think I did it, or as I say I did it? And what if I'm not? And so going back in and then doing it again and realizing that, I am that person, and that authenticity that comes from it, and the gravitas or the credibility that comes with your community, because they're like, wow, not only did you say you did it, but now when you do it, you actually can do it better than anybody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like and so.
Well, and all of that resonates, and all of it's true. It's just, I think when we're talking about releasing music, like I talk to Emmy about this a lot of the time. She's like, I just want it to come from my heart. And I'm going, absolutely, let it be you. But girl, get freaking moving too at the same time. So there's this, you almost like, you can't sit in your feels too much. And I'm going, how do I sit in my feels and then execute now?
Yeah. It's, I don't know.
Because guess what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, no,
But you're right.
We're figuring it out.
You have one of the biggest, you're touched on probably one of the biggest problems.
Yeah.
And you're right there to having the solution, but you have to do it yourself.
We're going to walk through it.
You have to
Keep
do
you
it
posted.
because they talk about all the time what a painful process it is to write a great song from your own emotions.
Oh, Lord.
And how difficult it is. And so what happens is at the root of it, you have the same struggles that all of these other great songwriters have. And but if you can figure out how to be able to step through that and complete it, which is where they're struggling, then you become that, you lead by example.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I that's why I think I like writing for other people so much too, because like if it's for someone else and they're going through something, I'm like, great, I don't have to think about what I'm going through. Let's dive into that. Let's write about that. But when it comes to my stuff, I'm like, and then also everything I write is so honest that if I'm doing things in my life that I know maybe are wrong or I shouldn't, like, I don't know, like I was dating the wrong person recently, and then I knew if I sat down with myself and really was honest with myself about that, then it would have been really painful, and then I would have had to break up with that person. Or like, it's like things in your life that you have to be so honest about and you don't want to touch upon, but if you do, you're gonna really get there, and then it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then it's crumble.
For me, the honesty piece is so important, and I love that because that's so real. I think and I'm just gonna go just to me, my own example is, it's that fear of, am I actually that good? It's weird, and I say it, and you hear it all the time. And it kind of goes by. You're like, no, of course you're that good. Blah blah blah. You say that, and then it kind of goes back to yourself, and you're like, wait a second. So was all of this built from this place, from this wound?
Oh.
And I go, and if it was, God bless the wound. Because I'm loving what's happening, but let's get some healing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Wow.
And maybe the system can heal a little kid that just wants to be healed. That's crazy.
Well, okay. So then since we have you here and you are able to be this honest, but also are able to like help people work through it.
Yeah.
What is like, I don't know, what would be like your best piece of advice to give out?
There was a point, and this, I don't know, has anything to do with music, but I remember there was a point in my life where I decided, regardless of consequences, I'll be truthful. And I like lost friends. I started having a lot of frustrating moments with my family. But after like 3 or 4 years of it, there was this freedom that I was like, I like knew that was available. But I had to start just asking, like that moment when you're like, I don't want to face the breakup. Mm-hmm. I had to face the breakup daily, but it was with so many ideas of, and I still am like, man, I don't know which one's true, but I just got to sit still and like, no, like what's true? And regardless, like Emmy and I have these conversations all the time, and I'm like, I don't even want to tell you this because like, I don't know if it's going to be beneficial, but if you want to hear, we'll have that conversation. Oftentimes, the pain of those conversations and just the thought process lead to this incredible freedom. So my advice is, the more honest you can be with yourself, the more freedom you'll find.
That's beautiful.
It really is. And I tell you also that I hope that you decide to take that challenge. And I know how hard it is. It's like, when you're a good athlete and you have a lot of confidence in yourself And now it's like, the key moment of the game. Do you want the ball or do you not? Right. And so this is kind of like a moment for you, meaning that my experience with somebody like you that can teach as well and can organize, that you actually have the skill and that you actually deserve to be the authority. And the only way you're going to know that for sure is to do it. But there's also the risk that you may not, right? And that's the downside. But that's what's going to make you do it. That's what's going to make you, that fear is what's going to push you to a whole different level. And as successful as you are, you have the ability to go. And that's going to be the proudest moment of your life, besides having your daughter, that you're going to, if you're able to do that, I would encourage you, please take that risk and do it. And I bet you're going to be as good as you've always thought or said, or as other people think. And you're actually going to be better.
Yeah. We believe in you, Tyler.
And imagine what that's gonna feel like when you actually heal that, and you're actually the person or the man that you've always believed that you could be.
And you know it as an artist. I know that we might be going over, but I feel like when you strike gold in your soul and you're like, I have to say this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because your intuition tells you it's good.
And then you have to go, now I have to put in the work to finish this.
Yeah. Yikes.
And I'm going, I think now I have the skill set to finish what the heart's trying to say.
Oh.
And I don't know if I ever had that in the past. So it's exciting, but I'm like, oh, Lord.
There's a lot of,
yeah.
I mean, you got to reveal a lot of vulnerability. You're revealing your heart. And then there's also the fear of failing, or fear of not being good, and you have so many people that look up to you and depend on you and look at you as a mentor, and now you don't want to let them down. It's a lot, man. It's a lot. But
burn the ships, baby.
Burn them.
Burn the ships.
Just imagine what you're gonna be when you do all of that, though. Like, think about that. Like, again, that completion.
Yeah.
The man you're gonna evolve into.
Well, I didn't realize we were gonna be solving.
Yeah, I
solving
mean,
the world's problems. Well, this world problems.
Thank you so much for being here, though, because honestly, admitting all of those things, and I mean, both you and Emmy are just such beautiful examples of what we said earlier, but why we started this podcast. Like, people look up to you guys, and you're so talented, but you're so willing to say these are the things I've struggled with, and this is how I've moved past it, and if I can do it, you can do it too. And it's just it's such a blessing. So just thank you so much.
Yeah. Or you realize you haven't really stepped in fully and you go, damn. There's more. There's
always more.
Well, that's the thing. I think probably your people that follow you, your fans, when you put it out there, the thing they're going to resonate most with is your insecurities. Yeah. They're going to be like, wow, now I really relate to him, because, I
got some song ideas. We got to go write some songs, baby.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah,
no, it was great. It was really great.
Appreciate it.
All right. Until next time.